Okay, so we're recording, and I am going to just mute everybody for a bit. We are going to start seated for a moment. So we'll come to just a comfortable seated meditation practice. This is kind of, we closed with a bit of a contemplation yesterday, and I want to open with it today. And then we'll go into the yin practice. So for the sake of the recording, this is January the 4th, and it's the final day of our retreat. Our focus is aspiration today, and our intention is to do a yin yoga class for the gallbladder meridian, which is associated with planning. The gallbladder is associated with planning. But I wanted to just take a step back and connect with what's been coming up for a lot of people, and come into our bodies and attend to that first, which actually does connect with the aspiration, and that will lead us into our aspiration class. So coming to a comfortable seated meditation position, whether that be sitting on a meditation cushion or in a chair, kneeling on a block. And just start by making sure that you're connected to the earth through your pelvic floor. So there can be a tendency to roll forward, and then the pelvic floor is pointing up and not firmly grounded. So feeling that connection with the earth. Feeling the qualities of the earth. The stability, the support, the rootedness, the groundedness. And allowing that to lengthen your spine. Feeling an opening through the back of your head. Drawing your ears back over your shoulders. Feeling an openness through the back of your neck. Letting there be space between your teeth and your tongue float in your mouth. Your elbows are underneath your shoulders. And I want you to reflect on what strong sensations have been coming up for you in your body through this retreat, the ones that stand out. And try not to choose a lot. Actually, please don't choose a lot, just choose one. Quality, sensation, feeling. So usually there's a sensation in the body, there's an emotion attached to it. So I'll give you an example of an emotional state that comes up for me quite often, is a feeling of that I would label as nervousness or anxiousness, anxiety, And I'll often feel it as a tightening in my belly, maybe a shortness of breath, and a tensing generally in my body. And also, I'll notice it in as I'm doing things as an urgency in my doing, as feeling like I need to hurry up and rush. So for me, that is something, it's sort of a habitual sensation that comes up, but that is one nonetheless that I can identify with. Some of the ones that have been standing out for people in this retreat is an overthinking that feels like stress in the body, a feeling of being judgmental with yourself, feelings of restlessness, a feeling of turning away from yourself. And each one of these will have a sensation in your body. So really tune into what that feels like in your body. And it will be unique for each and every one of us. And then notice the life connection. So when is the sensation and feeling happening? When does this come up for you? So for me, I notice this feeling, the sensation of tension in my belly, this closing in on myself, almost tensing in my chest and my shoulders, a kind of urgency, a sense of urgency and rushing. Even this morning, as I started to prepare, while I was done preparing, I was getting my breakfast ready. So I was getting ready to come and teach. And I noticed these sensations coming up in my body. So noticing what the life connection is for those sensations, and then going a little bit deeper and checking in with your body. So staying connected with your body. And seeing what the aspiration behind that embodied response is. So behind for me, and it will be unique for you, behind for me that tightening in my belly, that shortening of breath, that urgency in my doing. What was behind that? What message was there for me from my body? And so for me, I can notice a desire to do something that is probably just as important as breathing itself to me. To come and share the beautiful teachings, to teach, my life purpose. It's so important to me to do it with integrity, to teach with gentleness, to teach with compassion and tenderness, to teach in a way that shows depth. So that was the aspiration. That was the longing underneath the embodied response. So when I take that moment to pause and feel into my body, feel the feedback that's coming from my body, I can feel that tensing as the beautiful meditation bell that's bringing me back to my deepest aspiration. And in a moment, you'll have a chance to speak, what was true for you in this contemplation, and maybe any insights or awarenesses you may have found in this contemplation. But I just want to share with you that I've spent quite a bit of time in contemplation this morning, and that this doesn't just apply to, life purpose. So you can open your eyes for this part and come into circle to hear this more as a teaching. But so I thought, when are there other points in my life where I feel these really strong embodied responses? And so, my daughter Trinity seems to be going through a little period where her hormones are just going wackadoodle, poor thing. And, the way that shows up in her life is that she's quite emotional. And when these emotional outbursts happen, my embodied response is immediately actually to turn away from her. My body tenses up and turns away from her because the emotional outburst is too much. That's just what happens. And in contemplating this embodied response, I actually can see, what is actually underneath that, because it's not a turning away from her. It isn't. There actually is a deep longing for connection there. So when I tune in and I feel that embodied response, right, to the emotional outburst, which isn't, mommy, let's cuddle. It's quite a different expression. right? And then my body tenses and turns away, right? It's actually a kind of protection, but underneath there's a deep longing for connection when I really turn into it, to the way my body tenses against that. So when I look back at the whole retreat, I see how important the themes are that we've gone through, and also, the teachings as a whole, to take that moment to pause, really, and to feel into, what's happening here. Even, those very strong responses to when Tim and I will have an argument, and I'll start jousting with him, and I'll feel that really strong embodied response. Again, when I really feel into it, that wanting to rub up against him, when I feel into that in my body, underneath it, there's actually a longing for connection there. So that is where that pause and really feeling into and tuning into my body, and listening to my body, checking in with my body and feeling, okay, what was that about, and what do I need here, is really helpful. Because the initial embodied response can actually be quite mysterious and not leading me in the right direction in the first place, if that makes sense. So I thought I might open the lines just to see if there were any responses to that, or insights, or anything that wants to be shared at this time. Or you know what, we're going to leave the lines closed because there's some feedback on the lines. If you want to respond in any way, you can unmute yourself and then remute yourself.
So I started noticing at the beginning of the meditation, the heaviness in my chest and throat, and thought it had something to do with needing to do some things later, my list of to-dos, and it wasn't. It was a heavy sadness that I'm carrying daily, and trying to exist with. I cannot resolve it because it concerns the life of another. So it's something I have to just be with for now.
I am feeling the same, Melissa, when you speak of tension in the belly and the connection of having to do things at a specific rate, and it is tied into like this part of the body for me right now, feeling it as a sore spot, not necessarily super sore, but somewhere that's really touchy. And also, I guess that's all I want to say for now.
Yeah, thanks, Madeline.
I have a headache for 2 days now, and for me that's really exceptional. I don't have headaches often, but I'm not sure what the life connection is. There was a lot of irritation and annoyance the last days, so there must be something. But yeah, and it's still there. It's not gone. And I recognize also a lot what you say in dealing with my son, or tensing up when I am supposed to, or I think I should do, or act like I don't want. And then the uneasiness, the feeling that I have to do a lot, or that tenses me up. Instead of, I have a problem with connecting at that moment to acknowledge the feeling and try to surround me with compassion or tenderness. That's really difficult, I found. I think so.
Yeah, and I think this practice isn't about fixing ourselves so that, in those moments we aren't tensing up. It's just noticing that when it does happen, that we can notice that these embodied responses point to something deeper within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So as we go into the class today on aspiration, there's a tendency to think that aspiration is something outside of ourselves, that we need to reach for outside of ourselves or create outside of ourselves. And what I want us to really see is that aspiration is not outside of ourselves at all. It's built into our DNA. Our deepest aspiration lies absolutely in our embodied experience from moment to moment. And so often we dismiss our embodied experience as something that we need to get past so that we can get to our aspiration, so that we can get to our soul purpose or whatever it's being called at the moment. But that our embodied experience will lead us directly to our deepest aspiration, right? So what I'm saying is that very visceral embodied experience with my daughter of feeling that turning away actually is pointing me back to turn towards her, right? It's a very strong experience of like, okay. Or that very embodied experience of wanting to joust with Tim, right? I mean, if I really didn't care about him, I'd walk away. Or that very embodied experience of anxiety, tension in my body. It's pointing to something that I care about more than anything. So these are not things we need to get over. They're pointing to the things that matter most to us. And I think that what has been the clarity, the thing that has been more clear to me than ever in holding space for this retreat is that it still feels like these embodied, very strong emotional states feel like something that we need to get past to live our real life. And yet, as I witness and observe, it feels more than ever that they are directly pointing to your unique path. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, phew. Yeah. So
But you know,
go ahead, Linda.
when I hear this, I think yes, you're absolutely right. I can see it. But what for me, what happens inside is that I'm going to think. I'm really going to, I should know, you know? I should know by now what's going on.
Well,
I want
that's
to explain it. I want to fix it, you know? That's what's happening. That's, I think, also part of the headache.
Right. So that's kind of ego coming in. And so then that's a little bit of a detox that's going on. And that's a normal part of the retreat too. So don't even worry about that. It's just, whatever. But like to me, it's so exciting because, think about all the money that we spent on these divination tools or psychics or whatever. Like, you don't need any of that because, right here, you have the most powerful divination tool at your disposal, giving you feedback 24/7.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, but I think that's the thing I'm struggling with is that I want it now.
And you got it now. You've got it now, though.
I know, but it takes time, and I know too. My body needs also the time to integrate everything of the last 5 days. So I don't have the solution now or the answer, but that's what I'm trying,
Yeah.
And that's annoying too.
Yes. Yeah. So that I think that's a good point too. Is that contemplate there is value in taking time for the contemplation too, right? Mm. So whatever sensation has been alive to pause and be with it, and sometimes it may take a few days, a few weeks for the body to reveal its message to you. Mm. And the body will reveal its message in its own perfect timing as well. right? Because it may not be the right time for
Mm.
you right now either.
Mhm.
Right? Think about that maybe too, it might be time, like we talked even at the beginning of the retreat about how sometimes it's time to, we have the waxing and waning phases, right? So it may be time to be purging, not gaining insight, right? It may be time to be letting go. But
Yeah.
it is still, I think, a powerful contemplation to contemplate these sensations that are arising, and to, it is contemplation is a style of meditation in itself, that when you're like, okay, I've been having a lot of restlessness, okay, let me feel into this restlessness in my body, and what is the desire, what is the aspiration underneath the restlessness, because there's something there.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That wants to be communicated, that's trying to come forward. It's not something that's we just need to get over. So I'm going to do this class with you, but I really want that point to come home, that it's aspiration is not outside of you, it's already in you, and all these things that you think are in the way are the way. And they're leading the way.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments or questions before we go into the class? All right, then, so go ahead and lie back in Shavasana then. So feel the earth underneath you. Feel the support of the earth underneath you. And also feel your body letting go of tension. And feel the breath in your lower belly. So in today's class, I am going to read you many inspiring words and blessings and poems. And these are inspiration from the outside. And I do this with some caution. and direction. I ask you to stay connected with your body and to notice your body's response to the words as they wash over you. What words have particular resonance when your body turns away, and to be curious to contemplate your body's response. So stay in a very embodied state without needing to figure it all out, because it's in staying close to your body that the aspiration will be revealed. Like the joy of the sea coming home to shore, may the relief of laughter rinse through your soul. As the wind loves to call things to dance, may your gravity be lightened by grace. Like the dignity of moonlight restoring the earth, may your thoughts incline with reverence and respect. As water takes whatever shape it is in, so free may you be about who you become. As silence smiles on the other side of what is said, may your sense of irony bring perspective. As time remains free of all that it frames, may your mind stay clear of all that it names. May your prayer of listening deepen enough to hear in the depths the laughter of God. Okay, so you're going to slowly make your way onto all fours. Our first yin yoga pose is going to be a variation on wide knee child's pose. So you're going to come into child's pose and then walk your hands over to the right so that you're getting into your side body for it. So remember, with yin yoga, we choose an appropriate edge, remembering that we're going to be here for a while. So you don't want anything sharp or shooting, nothing nervy or electric. You want to be able to soften into the pose, be able to embody all those yin qualities of being receptive and allowing, to be able to be soft still. And we let time and gravity do all the work of the slow and gentle traction into the deeper tissues of the body. And then we resolve to be still. Okay, so very slowly, you're going to come back to the center. And you're going to make your way onto your back so you can feel the rebound here. And then you're going to come back to child's pose, the wide knee child's pose. And this time you're going to do the side bend to the other side, so you walked your hands to the right last time. This time you're going to walk your hands over to the left. And I am just going to get a glass of water, and I notice the element is on the stove, so I'm going to go turn that off. So John O'Donohue says that it takes us so long to see where we are. It takes us even longer to see who we are. This is why the greatest gift you could ever dream is a gift that you can only receive from one person. And that person is yourself. Therefore, the most subversive invitation you could ever accept is the invitation to awaken to who you are and where you have landed. And really, that's everything that we were just talking about this morning. About coming into your body and listening to your body. Okay, so go ahead and let this pose out of your body and lie on your back to feel the rebound. And then you're going to roll over onto your stomach. And on your stomach, you can just wiggle your hips from side to side so that you release your low back. And you can make more space by tucking your toes under, lifting your knee, reaching back through your heels on both legs. And then you can walk your elbows underneath your shoulders. And let's walk our hands over to the right so that you're also opening up the left side body here as well. So once you start to awaken, no one can ever claim you again for the old patterns. Now you realize how precious your time here is, and you are no longer willing to squander your essence on undertakings that do not nourish your true self. Your patience grows thin with tired talk and dead language. You see through the rosters of expectation, which promise you safety and the confirmation of your outer identity. So once you start to awaken, no one can ever claim you again for the old patterns. Now you realize how precious your time here is. You are no longer willing to squander your essence on undertakings that do not nourish your true self. Your patience grows thin with tired talk and dead language. You see through the rosters of expectation, which promise you safety and the confirmation of your outer identity. Now you are impatient for growth, willing to put yourself in the direction of change. You want your work to become an expression of your gift. You want your relationship to voyage beyond the pallid frontiers to where the danger of transformation dwells. You want your God to be wild and to call you to where your destiny awaits. Okay, come back to the center and lie down on your belly in the middle. And then we're going to repeat this pose, the same pose on the other side. So you're going to walk your elbows underneath you again. And then you're going to walk over to the other side so that you're opening up your right side body now. And then you come back to the center again, very slowly and with care, and rest down on your belly again. Feel the rebound. And then lie on your back. And on your back, you're going to come into Banana Asana now. Tim says I put this pose in every single class. I really like it. It's a great pose for getting into the side body. So let's take our feet to the left side of the mat. You can hook your right foot over your left ankle. Remember, you're going to be here for 5 minutes, so choose your pose accordingly. And then you're going to side bend over to the left as well. You can have your arms straight or bent and hold on to the elbows. See what feels best for you and your body today. Remember to relax and soften into the pose. We let time and gravity do the work. There's no effort in a yin pose. When you begin to sense that your imagination is in the place where you are most divine, you feel called to clean out your mind of all the worn and shabby furniture of thought. You wish to refurbish yourself with living thought so that you can begin to see. As Meister Eckhart says, thoughts are inner senses. When the inner senses are dull and blurred, you can see nothing in or of yourself. You become a respectable prisoner of received images. Now you realize that eternal vigilance is the price of liberty, and you undertake the difficult but beautiful path to freedom. On this journey, you begin to see how the sides of your heart that seemed awkward, contradictory, and uneven are the places where the treasures lie hidden. You begin to become true to yourself. Very slowly and gently, with great care, you're going to make your way back to the center. And then we'll do Banana Asana on the other side. So your feet come over to the right corner of your mat. You side bend over to the right side, and your arms come overhead, remembering to be soft, that time and gravity makes the pose happen. You don't need to make the pose happen. Okay, so very carefully, you're going to come back to the center. Okay, let's make our way up to a seated position. You're going to need some blocks for this and possibly a cushion if you use a cushion in cow's face pose. How's that side body feeling? Okay, you're going to cross your right leg on top of your left leg, fill any space between your buttocks and the ground, and then you're going to need a block. You may need more than one block. And what you're basically going to do is you're going to be side bending. Basically, so you kind of do like this with your hands, and then you side bend to the side here. So what I did was interlace my fingers on top of my head or behind your head, and then you just rest on your block. So you're opening up your side body on the right hand side. So this is a blessing of solitude from John O'Donohue. May you recognize in your life the presence of power and light of your soul. May you realize that you are never alone, that your soul and its brightness and belonging connects you intimately with the rhythms of the universe. May you have respect for your own individuality and difference. May you realize that the shape of your soul is unique, that you have a special destiny here, and that behind the facade of your life there is something beautiful, good, and eternal happening. May you learn to see yourself with the same delight, pride, and expectation with which God sees you in every moment. Okay, slowly, slowly come up. Just pause in the center. And then we'll switch our legs. And you're going to take your blocks over to the other side. And you take your hands on top of your head again. And you side bend over the other side. And this side may be way different. You can always change the level of the blocks, okay? So let yourself just close your eyes and feel into your own internal experience along your side body, breathing into your gallbladder meridian, which runs along your side body. John O'Donohue says that the journey shows you that from this inner dedication, you can reconstruct your own values and actions. You develop from your own self-compassion a great compassion for others. You are no longer caught in the false game of judgment, comparison, and assumption. More naked now than ever, you begin to feel truly alive. You begin to trust the music of your soul. You have inherited treasure that no one will ever be able to take from you. At the deepest level, this adventure of growth is in fact a transfiguration, a transfigurative conversation with your own death. And when the time comes for you to leave, the view from your deathbed will show a life of growth that gladdens the heart and takes away all fear. Okay, very carefully, you're going to make your way out of the side. And then you're going to lie down on your back for final Shavasana. So taking the time to feel the effects of the practice through your side body in particular, through the gallbladder meridian. Giving yourself this time to receive and integrate your practice. So I do have a poem for you here in your final Shavasana from John O'Donohue. And I believe we either started the retreat with this or started the class with this. So you've heard this poem before. May you awaken to the mystery of being here and enter the quiet immensity of your own presence. May you have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. May you receive great encouragement when new frontiers beckon. May you respond to the call of your gift and find the courage to follow its path. May the flame of anger free you from falsity. May warmth of heart keep your presence aflame, and may anxiety never linger about you. May your outer dignity mirror an inner dignity of soul. May you take time to celebrate the quiet miracles that seek no attention. May you be consoled in the secret symmetry of your soul. May you experience each day as a sacred gift woven around the heart of wonder. So you're going to gradually allow your breath to deepen, wiggle and stretch out, and slowly make your way up to a seated position for a short integration of our time together here for this retreat. So sit in such a way so that you're connected with the earth through your pelvic floor. So that you can feel the connection with the earth underneath you. You can allow the stability of the earth to lengthen your spine. Open up the back of your head. Draw your ears back over your shoulders. Feel that opening through the back of your neck. Let there be space between your teeth and your tongue float in your mouth. Your elbows are directly underneath your shoulders. And make any adjustments in your spine that you need to find that space along the back of your spine. Feeling your breath coming into your lower belly. And then feeling your connection with your embodied wisdom, your sense of wholeness, your connection with the earth, and knowing that each person here has that connection with their own internal wisdom. And then reflecting back on your experience of the retreat. All the way back, connecting to your intention to do this retreat. Making the space in your life to be present for the retreat. The time that you've invested in the retreat. Starting with the theme of the mystery. Taking the time to pause. Reflecting back on the year. The disappointments, the contentment. And then connecting with our own aspiration through our embodied senses. And of course, we always do these retreats within our own home base. Sometimes still going to work within the context of our families. So very much within our normal household experiences, within our normal everyday work experiences. So those also color our experience of the retreat. So when you reflect on all of this over the last 5 days? What stands out? What seems... Okay, I left out one thing. The other thing that really makes up the retreat is all the time that we invest in supporting each other in the online forum as well. All the comments there, all the time spent in contemplation there. When you reflect back on all of this, what stands out? What seems most important? What's bubbling to the surface of your experience? There's no right or wrong or better or best answer. Your body will reveal to you what is most important to you at this time. And what's one small thing that you're carrying away with you? Not in a, I've got it all figured out and the whole path is laid out before me now kind of way, but just one small thing that you're carrying with you off your mat and into the world. Generally, your body just reveals the next step, not the whole recipe. And in a moment, we'll have a little bit of space to share any insights and awarenesses. Just remembering that each one of you has your own inner wisdom and has your own unique path. And that there's no need to fix or change anybody or give anybody advice. We each speak from the words I rather than you. So I invite you to come back to the circle. And if there are any insights or awarenesses that want to be spoken at this time, I invite them to come forward.
What stood out to me is thoughts, the thoughts as something physical and that are repetitive, and feeling them, like the top of the brain, the back of the brain, in the middle of the brain, and feeling the translucent energy that is in the system and that wants to not stay there but just to dissipate down. And the thought as sensation is coming clearly into perspective rather than the thought as an object or and observing, or there's like an observer but there isn't an observer. It's really just the nature of this body and noticing that observing things takes takes a large amount of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And just like seeing the observee. This is coming from a few quotes I was seeing, and now it's kind of stuck. One in particular from Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche's teacher, and the quote had observer or observee, those two words, and it's just like tying into what I'm experiencing right now is just like seeing my thought person, the person who's doing the thinking, and just being who I am.
Mm-hmm. I think I can relate to what you're saying. Like I know I've had these, I can qualitatively feel the difference for example, in a yin pose when I'm really connected to the thinking and kind of hooked into it versus when thinking is happening in the background and there's no attachment to it. Not even observing the thinking. It's just kind of like it's there, but there's and I'll catch myself all of a sudden I'm aware that it's there, but it's been going on. So I think I get what you're saying. So I like this idea of the sensation of thought too. But almost as soon as you bring that awareness to it, there's the observer too, and then there's that tension that comes with it too. So it's a tricky one, and it's a tricky one to language around as well.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you language it, then the concepts come in, and then the tension comes in around it as well. Thanks, Madeline.
Also, I'm feeling how the pelvic floor is generally anxious, and it's better for me to just relax. And in previous years, I think the relaxation wasn't there, but
Mm-hmm.
now it's like I'm tuning into something bigger down below the body,
Mm-hmm.
and it's I can feel it as the sensation of relaxation in the perineum area.
Have you been doing the perineum breathing with Reggie?
Not recently.
Yeah. It's a really good one for tuning into that subtlety with that you're talking about there. It's a really good one for that one. And it's so funny. I just scratched my back like that. You know that perineum breathing in my experience reminds me of, you know, that Shrira Hand Body Mudra series that we do sometimes. I haven't done it in a long time, so I don't know. It kind of came before your days. I used to do it a lot. Did you ever run into it in a class though, Madeline? This one?
What's coming to mind is just the tapping of energies.
Yeah, it was way before that. It was early days. I used to teach this series. And do you remember so Linda's nodding her head. Do you remember, so Jane probably was around then, Ivy would have been around then, Linda would have been around then. Do you remember when we would get up to here and you would feel for your breath up here? And compared to here and here, it would feel like nothing was happening. But over time, the more you would tune into it and the quieter you would become, you would actually eventually open to the sensation of breath here in your very, tends to be tight, I guess, scapula. What are these muscles called up here? But right in your upper back. I find that the perineum breathing is very much like that. It takes that much tuning inwards and quietness to feel that, and relaxation. So it always reminds me of that.
When you did the movement with your hands like on the rib cage, that reminded me of like yesterday. It was like I tuned into how tense that area is, like on the top of the rib cage, very top part, and it's definitely interestingly new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it can be very tight in there. The fascial connections in this area with the breathing.
Yeah, even numb.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to make sure that just check in and see what stood out about the retreat for people. If there was something that came forward for anybody.
I think a light went on for me today when you talked about this being the path, this being the life. Why that didn't occur to me before, I don't know, but it hit my body today. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm hoping I can hang on to the recognition of it, or at least come back to it from time to time.
Mm-hmm. I think we're always looking for something so big outside of ourselves, you know. And it's right here.
Yeah,
And we're
something in the future.
for something in the future too. Yeah. Yeah. And we're always already right here. Mm-hmm. It's like you can't not live your path. Yeah.
A lot came out of the retreat for me. At the moment, I'm finding it a bit difficult to assimilate everything, but I think the one small thing that I'll take forward is the practices with there's a specific name for them, the changing of the neural pathway practices.
Mm-hmm.
So just a constant, that's got to be something that happens on a regular basis in order to obviously instill new behaviours and new patterns. So that's the one thing that comes to mind at the moment, but there's a lot going on in my head, which I just don't have the capacity to be eloquent about at the moment. Maybe I'll write about it on the forum afterwards.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a kind of humor in the fact that you can't remember the name of the neural pathway. Just as Jackie. Okay, I'm glad you I'm glad you see the humor in it too. I'm actually not really sure which ones you're thinking about either. Because I don't really remember putting them on the retreat.
They are there.
Really? Okay.
There was one today actually in the 4 movements of the neck. We did some brain yoga.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and there was another class as well, definitely. There are a lot in those postures and pranayama class.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, those are great. They're really good, and they don't have to take up a lot of time either. Just like some simple cross pattern movements. I saw my friend Tim Anderson show one that he thinks is like a really good one. I actually think it was Jane that posted it, and then maybe I reposted it. Was it like the rolling one where he rolled the head too? I really liked that one, and I think you could just do it in the morning before you did anything else. Yeah, so it was really simple. All he did was lie on his back. Oh, what a horrible point of view. Okay, let's do it like this instead. Okay, so all he did was lie on his back and hold on to his knees. And he rolled. And then you keep rolling your head as far as you can roll it. And then you roll back. And you keep rolling your head as far as you can roll it.
My friend showed me something like that, and I think it's called Feldenkrais.
Sorry, I didn't have my earpiece in, so I couldn't hear you.
My friend showed me a set of movements that look like that, but it's got a different name for it. It's a body movement therapy called Feldenkrais.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think it's Feldenkrais.
Yeah, it looks similar.
I think in the one that I shared, he said that if you were only going to do 2 moves, the 2 moves that you should do that will cover everything is the one that Melissa's just done and the rocking back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that just those 2, he said, covered everything.
Yeah, and the rocking is like all fours back to child's
Yeah.
pose, back and forth.
I thought I might manage to talk my husband into doing at least that. But he just looks at me and laughs. Lost cause.
But so here's the other thing. I think we can also trust that our bodies will point us to what we need as well. So if your body's feeling like you need those practices, then you will gravitate to them. But I get wary of imposing these agendas from the outside, like, oh, I absolutely have to do these every day. Yeah. But, like when I was on retreat, I did almost no yoga like I normally practice at all. I did all vinyasa flow. And I never practiced vinyasa. But it was what my body needed during those days, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just, to me, it's always about really connecting in and having that ongoing relationship with your body and just listening, responding to its needs. But in hindsight, it makes sense that that's what I was doing then, right? Because I was sitting for 8 hours a day, right? So. Anything else bubbling to the surface right now wants to come forward? So I really want to thank all of you for being here over the last 5 days. As my friend Annie always says, this is an incredible act of generosity that you've given yourselves. It's a gift that you've given yourself over the last 5 days. And your presence here is duly noted. It's an incredible contribution to your own practice and to our community and to each other. And I really appreciate it. Each time you show up here, you contribute to our community here. Each time you post on the forum, you contribute to that community as well. And you can see how much it makes a difference. Even do you see how inspiring it is even to the people that aren't participating? They are so inspired by you going through the process. So I thank you for that. And you are inspiring other people to follow in your footsteps. So it takes great courage to go through a retreat like this. As you know, it wasn't always easy, right? But you made it through, so I just want to acknowledge that you did make it through.
Yeah, can I say something about this? Because I don't think I would do it on my own. It's quite intense. So to do it here together these days, I think that's quite wonderful, and that gives me the drive to finish it and share, because we are together in this moment, and I'm very happy to do that. Yeah.
I think that's very true, because there are lots of retreats there, right? And
Yeah.
you could do them at any time. But it's very rare that anybody chooses to go back and do a retreat.
Yeah. One day, okay, we have some fun retreats, but this one and the Earth Descent one, I'm not going to do that on my own. No.
Yeah. It's it makes a big difference to have the space held for you and to have the support of the community.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really great, and it's nice to have this time together as a community. So thank you all of you, and I really admire that you made this space for yourselves in your life. So thank you, and we'll see you on Monday for a regular class that won't be nearly as intense as the last 5 days. Namaste.
That's it.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.